Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of the SuperCoach AFL live show. Heading into round 13, this is in theory the easiest week of the buys, just the two teams off, St Kilda and Fremantle. But we've got a comment already from Matthew Granger here saying, I'm ready for nothing to go my way. And we might be able to help you, Matthew, because there are a few curveballs in the teams, which we'll get to very shortly. But Al Paton here, obviously, and joined by my good friend Matt Forrest. Matt, how are you feeling? One buy round down, and we've still got 3 or 4 more to go.
I was feeling a little bit better than about 12 minutes ago. That's for certain. There's a couple of outs this week that hurt my team. I thought I was going into the round with about 22, maybe 23 available, so I was really excited about that. I think I'm sitting at 18 or 19 now, so it's not fun. Yeah,
I'll have to do a count. Yeah, I was like you. I was on sort of 20, 21, but yeah, it sounds like I'm a couple down on what I was thinking. So hopefully 18 will still be covered okay, but certainly not ideal. But we'll get into the teams, I guess, straight away, starting with a pretty big game tonight at Hawthorn and the Bulldogs. And the teams for this came out last night, and there's some interesting moves there. And you actually wrote an interesting some analysis, I guess, on especially what the Hawks are doing, because they've brought in a few young guys who potentially could be promising for us in Supercoach, but how long will they actually last? What do you think the Hawks are up to here? Obviously, Sicily's out for a few weeks with some kind of hip issue, and the others maybe just a week or so.
Yeah, I think Sicily it'll be at least 2. Then and there's a bye thrown in there as well. So he'll miss 3, maybe 4 weeks of footy. So it gives guys like Seamus Mitchell a bit of an extended run. In the senior side, he's been playing really well in the VFL at the moment. I think the Hawks have just been too tall in defence really all season. Obviously, when you bring in Barras and Battle, then trying to play Sicily, Scrimshaw, Weddle in the same back line, there's going to be issues with moving the ball out of there. Sicily's kicking is usually elite. It's been his biggest downfall this year, apart from the fact that he can't actually move around the ground. So it leaves Kyle Amon to be the only elite distributor off the half back line. It's all making sense why the Hawks' back defensive movement into sort of through the middle and into the forward line has been weak this year. They've corrected it a little bit. They've managed Scrimshaw. Sicily's out through injury. Seamus Mitchell comes in. They're going to play Weddle as the 3rd tall instead of a 5th. It's a lot more balanced. And then bringing Max Ramsden into the forward line means that Weddle doesn't have to go forward. A big watch on Sam Butler, the role that he plays. I think he needs to avoid the sub vest. I don't know if we've got the subs in just yet.
No, but, just keep refreshing that. I haven't got him quite yet.
He's got to be used as a midfielder forward option rather than just playing as a precious small forward, because like Hawthorn's laid 74 tackles in 2 weeks. Season lows in the last fortnight, and he laid 11 in the VFL last week. He was playing as a midfielder. He needs to get midfield minutes, so it'll be interesting to see if that's the switch that's made for the Hawks and trying to fix and maybe win some clearances against, or at least provide a bit of defensive pressure when they aren't winning the clearances against the Dogs.
Just quickly to go over those changes again. So the outs are Sicily injured for a few weeks, Nick Watson illness, and Jack Scrimshaw managed, and the ins are Seamus Mitchell, Sam Butler, and Max Ramsden. They're all kind of interesting, awkward, weird prices in Supercoach because they've all played at some stage over the last couple of years, but not a heap of games and not for a while. So Sam Butler is a 126k forward. His last 3 VFL games, Supercoach-wise, he scored 110, 151, and 100. As you say, laying a heap of tackles. He had 42 disposals a couple of weeks ago, that 151-point game. Max Ramsden is a 128k forward. He's been averaging 106 in the VFL. He's more your sort of key forward type, though. And Seamus Mitchell was a really good rookie for us. Was it 2 years ago? Had a really good run of games, and then we sort of haven't seen him for a while. So he's 202,000, but his numbers have been really good. Past 3 VFL games, 104 Supercoach points, 156 and 149. So 36 and 35 disposals the last 2 weeks. He had 11 intercepts last week as well. So, with some of those outs, they might only, might not be out for too long, but we can always cross our fingers that one of these guys spikes a good score and maybe stays in the team. And we desperately need any cheapies we can get. So there's a couple of interesting names to watch over at the Dogs. They made 3 changes as well, with Ryan Gardner, Josh Dolan, and Adam Treloar coming in, and Oscar Baker has been dropped. Jason Johannesson has illness, and Taylor Duray has been dropped as well. I'll just quickly refresh and see if we have subs, and we do. And it's Josh Dolan for the Dogs and CJ Chunkworth Giarth for Hawthorn. So does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's a I did predict CJ yesterday, so I'm happy that one's come off. I think Finn McGuinness will be given a job on Ed Richards, like I predicted a couple of weeks ago against Geelong. I don't know if you remember that with Sheen Mullen.
We got that right. We
got that one right. We can't get the bets right, but we can get tags right. So I imagine it'll be Ed Richards today. It might be Bailey Dale off the halfback with he'll be pretty reliant back there for them to propel that ball movement. With Duray out, with they're playing Fraser in a couple of different positions around the ground now, so he's their only real sort of stable kick out of defence at the moment. So there might be a potential tag there. And I think Connor Nash will probably line up on Bontempelli at different stages throughout the game and potentially run a bit of a double tag there. So good to see McGuinness getting a full game as long as it's as a tagger. CJ's a perfect sub candidate though.
Yeah. All right. And so, there are plenty of interesting Dogs in this game, certainly from Supercoach point of view. And we'll get to some captain talk later on. But I know a lot of people bringing Bontempelli in this week, so that'll be an interesting one to consider. But we better get into the other games. We've got Friday night, the Crows are playing Brisbane. So, really interesting one here. Adelaide, I think their record is 1-5 against top 8 teams this year, but or maybe 1-4, I think. But, good chance here to try and improve that. They're obviously flying, so no changes for the Crows. Everything pretty straightforward there. There is one change. I have to scroll down a bit further. But Rory Laird comes back. He was just managed, I think, last week. And Sid Draper goes back to the Sandford to get a full game after being the sub, I think, 3 weeks in a row. And Brisbane, just the one change. Ty Gallup, who's been in lots of extended squads this year, finally gets in for a debut. And Darcy Gardner is out injured. But not a heap there. Certainly, ins and outs, there's not a whole lot happening. But anything else interest you there from a Supercoach point of view? Are you hoping Levi Ashcroft can keep going for at least a couple more weeks, get us through to the Brisbane bye before we have to trade him?
Well, personally, not really, because I traded him out already. But okay. I think it's interesting that Oscar McInerney, he's on the extended bench. He was injured and he was kept out of the side just because they had a short turnaround, and he's fully fit now. And Darcy Fort's in the side, and Oscar McInerney's on the extended bench, on the emergency bench. So. Not sure the theory there, but that's an interesting one up at the Lions.
Now we get into the Saturday games, and this is where the Supercoach chaos really begins. Richmond hosting Sydney Swans at the MCG. Richmond obviously almost won against GWS last week, but they made one change, and look at this from a Supercoach point of view. Noah Bolter's back, which we knew he would be available, and Campbell Gray has been dropped. So that was the straight swap a couple of weeks ago when Bolter was out. Campbell Gray came in. He's been really good. And we thought, do they find a way to keep him in? Maybe, Luke Traynor clearly looks like he needs a rest. They've subbed him out a couple of times already in the last couple of weeks. So, he could be the one to go out. But no, Campbell Gray's gone. So that's one number down for a lot of people in Supercoach this week. And then no cash coming from him either. And Richmond has the bye next week. So he's not going to help us too much in terms of making money. Another dead sort of rookie, at least for now. And I don't think Bolter has another game that he can't play for a while. So that's not ideal. And then we go over to the Swans, and there's a whole bunch of changes here. And the biggest one from a Supercoach point of view is Matt Roberts is out with illness. So you would think it's only a short-term thing, but the Swans also on the bye next week. So no help from him in terms of getting 18 players. Obviously, we knew they were going to be on the bye, but does that make you think twice about, do we keep him? He's been... he's been pretty good. I think averaging 95 for the year, but only more closer to the 85, 90s in the last sort of month or so. So could you potentially consider trading him out? Caleb Mitchell goes straight back out for the Swans. Joel Hamling's been dropped. Caden Cleary's been dropped. So that'll affect a few Supercoach teams, although you'd be looking to trade him anyway. And Peter Laddams is out injured. So Callum Mills come back in for his second game. So he'll be on the bubble after the Sydney bye. Actually, that timing, that could work out okay for us if he goes well this week. A cheap defender. Sam Weeks is back. Aaron Francis is back. Harry Cunningham's back for, I don't know if we've seen him for a long time. And Tom Hanley, he was a rookie very early in the season. But, that's going to leave a lot of people, a couple of players short this weekend. Yeah,
Matt Roberts is the annoying one there. Obviously, it isn't probably something that we didn't really foresee. There hasn't been much chatter about it up in Sydney about his illness, but him coming out for me is I've traded him. I was planning on trading him next week anyway, but I've moved some magnets around and I'll shift him this week instead and get in Connor Rozee after his bye. So not a bad swap for me. That was the plan next week, but we're just going 1 week early.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're planning on getting rid of him, that makes perfect sense. I was probably thinking I'd have to keep him for the year. I just don't have enough trades and enough money, I think, to sort of upgrade all the players that I'd like to. And I was thinking, well, here's one I can live with at D6, but now maybe I need to think twice about that. Although hopefully, if I've got 18, I should say this week, should be okay. But not ideal. And Richmond would have been a good matchup too for those sort of halfback types. Would have been hoping for a good score for him. So. That's a bit annoying, I should say. I mean, interesting, Riley Bice stays in after he had an absolute shocker last week, subbed off with, I think, about 6 or 8 SuperCoach points. But maybe he gets a few kicks with Matt Roberts not there. So, but I think, I mean, his break-even's exploded now, so you probably need to trade him anyway. But Gold Coast versus Geelong. So it's actually Geelong is the home team here, and that is another really interesting game on the Saturday afternoon, and some nice ins for Geelong. A couple of interesting ones. Patrick Dangerfield back after a couple of weeks out, and Jack Martin gets his first game for the Cats. We know what they've done with players like Tyson Stengel, so you just do not rule it out with Jack Martin. And Ted Closey goes straight back out again, and Ollie Henry has been managed. And for the Gold Coast Suns, we've got here just one change. Ethan Reid coming in. Is someone going out?
Ned Moyle's come out, yeah.
Yeah, he's the one who's got been dropped. So, from SuperCoach point of view, I don't think there's anything huge there for us, but I mean, Jack Martin surely won't be an option. He's about 150K, I think. Yeah,
he's a cheap one. Real sub chance in his first game back.
Yes,
but he's coming up against his first team now on his third. So whether that adds to it a little bit of fuel there, I don't think so. It's been a long time since he played for the Suns, but it's great to see him sort of overcome those injury woes that cost him, some consistency at the back end of last year for Carlton. Obviously led to his delisting and a relatively cheap pickup for Geelong. So he could be something great for our SuperCoach teams if he's playing every week. But obviously we haven't seen a strong run of form and games in him for a few years now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So just I hope he gets through it okay. The Saturday night game is GWS versus Port Adelaide. So what are the Giants doing here? They've got Jacob Ware's back. Brent Daniels is back for his first game in about 2 months, I think. He's actually reasonably cheap in SuperCoach for certainly how well he scored last year. And we have a debutant here in Nick Madden. So Kieran Briggs is out injured in the ruck. Callum Ward, we know that knee. Terrible news for him. And Cody Ango also has an injury, apparently. So Nick Madden's a 119K ruckman. He'll be playing first ruck, and he'll be rucking against Dante Visentini. So it'll be an interesting battle in the ruck there. But, one to potentially keep an eye on. I suppose if Briggs is back in a few weeks, it doesn't really help us in terms of a long-term pickup. But, any cheapie is worth watching.
Yeah, and it's been funny watching the Giants ruck evolution over the last few years. They had obviously Matt Flynn, who came out of nowhere and was the number one for a season. Then Kieran Briggs came out of nowhere and knocked Flynn off his perch when Flynn went down with an injury. And now, is it happening again with Madden coming in? He's been dominant in the VFL this year. He's had 6 or 7 games of his 9. He's had at least 18 touches, and 8 of his 9 he's had at least 30 hitouts. So he's been in really good form. He's still relatively young and raw, but as he said, coming up against Dante Visentini, who's also relatively young in the grand scheme of the ruck life, I guess. Most rucks don't really hit their peak until late 20s, and they're both pretty much little bubbers in the ruck. So that should be fun to watch. One that's an interesting spot to be named is I see Lockie Whitfield named on ball, which is
I guess something different, just throwing it.
Throws another spanner in the works. We obviously saw him on the half-forward flank a couple of weeks ago. That was disheartening to say the least, but he was on the half back line last week, and now he's a midfielder again. So I guess we'll have to wait and see where he lines up.
I mean, I suppose we're just hinting at there too is that Kieran Briggs is really just going this year. He hasn't had a great year. So if Madden was to perform really well the next couple of weeks, might give him something to think about. Maybe he does stay in for a little bit longer. We should quickly mention the Power as well. They've got a few players back. Kane Farrell's back. Josh Sinn's back. Radigalia also back in. So that means Logan Evans goes out. Ollie Lord goes out, and Rory Atkins also dropped. So I did for very briefly look up some of his numbers. He's about 200k, and he scored 100 in his last game, and he has done that in the past in little spurts in Supercoach. But that's not happening this year, so everybody can cross that off. But I mean, probably the biggest interest here from a Supercoach point of view, you're bringing Rosie in, who's also named on ball, not in the back line. But Zach Butters has a break even of about 195. He's already under 600k, and there's a chance he gets a tag from Toby Bedford this week. So I think he'll be a very popular trade in maybe next week or even the week after if he drops, another 30, 40k.
Yeah, he's another one on my list to get in the coming weeks. They're very expensive. The guys that I want to get, but I want Whitfield, I want Bonds, and I want Butters. So all of them are currently sitting around that 600k price point. So I'm hoping for a few bad games from them.
Yeah, well, that's right. You want them to get them when they actually do drop a bit, and the timing might work out for Butters. I just hope, I don't know how many people this affects, but Christian Moraes is one of my numbers, which suddenly is more important than it was before we started this video, and just hope he dodges the sub-vest. He's named on the bench there with Joe Richards, Hugh Jackson. Yeah, there's a couple of candidates, so we'll see how we go with that one. Now, this is an interesting game because North is playing a home game on Sunday against West Coast in Bunbury, I think. First
Bunbury over in WA,
AFL
yes.
Match there. So we'll see. What that does. Who actually has any kind of home ground advantage? But in terms of changes, North has lost Aiden Core to injury, and Finbar is out. Maley is out injured. Oh no, he's been dropped. Sorry, yep. And back into the squad at least come Griffin Logue, Harvey, Kieran Dawson, is it? Brent Tickle and Robbie Hanson Jr. Nothing huge there from a Supercoach point of view. And West Coast always playing on the Sunday, always keep things interesting for us. Bailey Williams is back into the squad. Clay Hall gets another chance in the 25-man squad, and Jamie Cripps is back from injury, so that's a good one for them. Ryan Marich of interest is named on the extended bench with Bo Allen as well. So we'll get the final teams at 5 o'clock on Friday. But do you think Ryan Marich holds his spot? And even if he does, do we have to trade him out in Supercoach with his break even's gone through the roof as well?
Yeah, I think you got to trade him out. I don't think he loses his spot in the 23 or 22 for the Eagles. But I think cash generation this year has been so difficult for rookies getting a few games and getting cut. I mean, just look at Campbell Gray playing great footy at Richmond, and he's only in the side when Bolter's curfew affects him. So I think Marriage has made plenty of cash. He's probably not going to be a top 10 forward at this point of the season. So you've got to ship him off and bring in someone who is, whether it's discounted forward or looking into that midfield of guys who've just come off the bye. There's plenty of them that are pretty tempting. So I'd be doing that. That's what I've done this week. So. But his break even's 150, and it's going to be tough to get him there, considering his last 2 weeks have been pretty poor.
Yeah, he's definitely on the way out for me now. Sunday night game. We have this week Carlton and Essendon. Should be pretty interesting, and some interesting changes here from potentially from a Supercoach point of view. Blues get Jack Silvani back, Zach Williams back, Horacio Fantasia comes in for, I think it'd be his first game of the year, and a couple of Alex Cincotta back as well, and Hudson O'Keefe. I have to look him up. So he's a potential debutant on the extended bench. And Essendon has named a couple of new faces as well. Again, extended bench if they get a game. Liam McMahon who was picked up in the mid-season draft, so he's a 99k rookie for us. Again, on the extended bench, and also with I'm going to butcher this name completely. Do you know
Luamon Lual?
Oh, very good, thank you. What can you tell us about him?
Once again, yet to debut. He's been playing sort of as a winger on both flanks in the VFL, so a little bit of halfback, a little bit of half forward, but he's a pretty exciting sort of run and carry sort of player. So, I don't know if he debuts. I doubt it. Looking at that bench, I mean, Parrish has been confirmed in. Brad Scott's stopped short of saying that McMahon would debut, but it seems like they're probably lining him up for a game against, the AFL version of his old side. I guess he was playing at Carlton VFL last, a couple of weeks ago before getting picked up. So it sounds like it'll be those two. Setterfield probably keeps his spot. I'd say Dave Wicks probably does as well, although he could be easily replaced. I just think the Bombers are at a point where they need to inject these, younger players and give them a string of games consecutively. So the fact that Clark and Johnson have both been named on the field is really promising for us as Supercoach owners. And looking at that bench, I don't think Lual gets there. Guelphing probably doesn't either, and I'd say Sardis is the last one there as well.
Yeah, and just of note, I mean, rookies have been absolutely cursed, as we've seen a couple more this week, but Angus Clark named for his third game on the wing. So, it seems like he's got that spot at the moment for the foreseeable future. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he can stay there because, where rookies are dropping like flies at the moment. But that gives us one at least. And there is, of course, a Monday game this week, but we don't have those teams yet. They usually come out like on Sunday afternoon or something, don't they?
Yeah, Sunday 5 p.m. I think is the time slot for them, which is awesome to to solidify
planning your Supercoach.
You'd think Saturday afternoon, extended squads, Sunday team named, but I guess it just gets lost in the wash with all the Super Saturday footy that goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll get to a few questions and some captain talk in a second, but welcome to this week's Best Bets, powered by Better. Last week, I went for some real futures stuff, so we can't really give it a ticker across, but I reckon Jordan Dawson's a chance for another 3 Brownlow votes in that game, so I'll give myself a little bit of a tick. And this week, we've got a couple of options, I guess. One is just to really keep it simple. I probably completely biased with my Richmond hat on, but I couldn't believe that the Tigers $2.70 head-to-head against Sydney this week. I mean, the Swans were absolutely horrible last round. The last 2 games they've lost by a combined 143 points to Adelaide and Melbourne, so they're in terrible form. The game's at the MCG. Richmond has lost 3 in a row, but that did include a 2-point loss to North and a 3-point loss to to GWS. So they're not going too bad, and Bolter comes back as well. So I think, I'd say it's probably a 50-50 kind of game. So $2.70 for that isn't too bad. But I did also find a 3-leg multi for King's birthday if we want to hang out till then. And that's Collingwood win, Nick Dacos 30 disposals or more, and Jamie Elliott to kick 2 or more goals. And you can get $4.90 for that.
Very nice. I did want to lean into the Richmond bandwagon, I guess, against the Swans. I was looking at multi. You know what? We're friends here. We love our teams in Hawthorn and Richmond, so I was going to multi them together. So I might just go with that. Hawthorn's paying $3.30 to beat Western Bulldogs tonight, and they're just due. They've played 3 terrible games in a row. They've fixed their lineup tonight. It's much more balanced. I think that the midfield battle is going to be, the Dogs are going to clean them up in there, but I think the turnover game and the rebounding offense will be back for the Hawks. So I'm going with Hawthorn, and then I'm going into Richmond as well. So that's paying $9. So I'm very excited with a couple of upsets for our teams.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. What are you really gambling with? Oh, I suppose we better do the correct wording. What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen, 1-800-858-858, or visit the website gamblinghelponline.org.au. Supercoach, we'll get into some questions, and then people usually ask about the captains anyway, but we'll make sure we give some tips on that. So, interesting. I've seen a few people going down this road. Jim Sykes asking, get TDK in as a flex. So if you've got Gawn and Cherry, clearly the primo 1-2 rucks. But Tom DeConing, about 530K this week, has a pretty good run. Has who's got Goldstein this week, and then he plays West Coast, I think, next week. So a couple of pretty good matchups for a ruckman. If he's had a bit fresh off the bye after dropping a couple of lower scores coming into the bye, is that something you would entertain?
I'm doing that this week. So DeConing into my side. He'll be a VC option, even though he's playing Sunday night. I'll be leaning him. He'll be the captaincy option with Tristan Cherry before him. So that'll be my 1-2 punch this week. But I think the only issue I guess that arises with having him in the flex is that you need someone with a mid forward eligibility playing a CR3. So Harry Boyd in there probably doesn't work in case one of the 3 rucks misses, because then you're going to have a donut on the field. So I'd be just mindful of that you want to be able to move them around a little bit and have a bit more flexibility with a ruck forward option. Someone like a Tom Sims or I can't think of any others that are.
Yeah,
I'm sure
there's
there's
not
probably
many
a
this year.
couple, but Tom Sims this year, and he's playing, so that's great.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not bargain basement price anymore. Question: do I spend the whole bank and get Libba, or save cash and get Caldwell? I'm bringing in Joe Caldwell this week, and I mean, Libba's just had such a good season, and he will score more points. But given Caldwell's only 440k, that's like 150,000 you're saving, probably for 10 or 15 points a week. I think that's worth saving the money, given as we've already alluded to how hard it is to find cash this year.
Yeah, I think if you don't mind the fact that Caldwell's still got a bye game coming up,
Yeah,
then
true.
yeah, I'd be leaning towards Caldwell. But it also depends on how many trades you've got. I don't think Caldwell's going to be a top 10 midfielder at the end of the season from this point onwards. And that's the important thing is you got to look at the total points from going into this week rather than worrying about what's happened in the first half of the season. So I'm also mindful that Libba is one of three big dogs in that midfield with Bontempelli and now Ed Richards as well. There's a fair bit of sharing of the Sharon in there. So I like going with someone who's an out and out scorer. Caldwell's playing inside, and they've moved Merritt to the half back line, which I don't understand. But it'll be interesting to see this week what Darcy Parish does to Caldwell. If there is any impact, I think Caldwell's well and truly gone past him though.
Yeah, no, I quite like Caldwell. And Treloar back for the Dogs as well might influence things there. A few questions about Matty Roberts. We've sort of touched on him already. Do we trade him? I mean, if I've got 18 players this week, I'm not trading. But if you was someone that you were thinking of moving on anyway at the Sydney bye, which is next week, then yeah, it probably makes sense to go ahead and do it now.
Yeah, I think so. That's what I'm doing. I was planning on moving Clayton Oliver this week after his another poor performance last week. But now that Roberts is out, I'd rather the warm body and take his, even if it's a subpar score from Oliver and ship off Roberts a little bit earlier, which is what I was planning on doing next week anyway.
Interesting name here from Brendan asking about is Sam Doherty an option? 380k has been said he will go back to halfback where he scored about 120 before Carlton's bye. Just having a quick look at their team, see if I can spot where he's actually been named. He's on the wing on the field, so that's interesting. And Merritt's been named in the centre, where how much we can trust any of that. But I mean, 380k is a great price, but it's just he's really been on the fringe of selection this year. He's been dropped. Yeah, it's pretty risky, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole personally.
Yeah.
I can't believe he's still in the best 22. I just think he's past it. He's a bit slow, and playing off halfback is a good way to hide these like aging veterans. But his impact there isn't as profound as he might collect a lot of the ball, but I don't think he's using it at any sort of pace. But I guess that's Carlton's game style is slow progression of the football up the wings and rather than daring cutting it off through the gut. So I just injury risk, form risk. I don't like it at 380. If it was 200, then I'd be considering it, but it's too much money.
Yeah, fair. And again, we're getting to the point of the season, like you say, talking about how many trades do you have left. If you're bringing someone in now, like I'm bringing in Caldwell this week, and I'm probably not going to be able to trade him out. I'm not going to have enough trades left to do that. So if he's someone I think I could just sit as my last midfielder, I'd probably be okay with that given his price. But Doherty's probably too risky to be doing something like that with. Now, Zane asking, should I trade Lindsay to Bont or trade Marich to a Nick Martin type and have 269k left over? I mean, I think Marich is the one who has to go. And it's a question, I'd be keeping Lindsay for another week or two, depending when Melbourne's bye is. He's been scoring okay, and I don't think he's going to lose any money. Marich, very different, so we need to get rid of him. But I think if you can get Bont this week, I'd be getting the Bont.
I'd say the same. If you're going to trade Marich to Martin and have 270k left over, then you can, unless you have no DPP swings to get Bont in. I'd be going Marich to Bont and not even thinking about it. I think you're paying 590k for a defender forward in Martin who still has his bye, or you can trade for the best midfielder in the competition for an extra 50 grand, and I know that he's only only mid-eligible, but I think that's the smarter play. If you can do it, if you can't do it, then I'd still be leaning to get rid of Marich. just purely because of he's going to lose cash. Lindsay isn't at the moment. His break even is still very manageable for the next week or two, and then you can ship him off in a fortnight when he's got his bye.
Yeah, that's true. I guess, I hadn't really considered that. He might be a bit snookered with the DPPs, which is what I've sort of done to myself this week, where I really have to get rid of Marriage. But he's in my forward line. I don't have a lot in the way of DPPs in the midfield, but there's no forwards I really want. So I've had to move a rookie from the sort of midfield bench down to the forward line to bring in Caldwell into my midfield. And it means I've now got all these rookies on the field in the forward line. One of them was Campbell Gray, so that's not great. So, so I'm just sort of hoping that with best 18 scoring the buys, I can kind of get away with it for a couple of weeks and hopefully figure out a way to fix it by the time the ends of the buys come around. So talking captains, and I think this is the question of the weekend, really. Manta asking, do I VC Bont into Cherry or VC Cherry as he could go 200? So I think if you have Tristan Cherry, he has to be either your captain or your vice captain. He's playing West Coast. They've given up more points in the ruck to anybody else. I think Max Gawn scored 198 against them a few weeks ago. So who knows what Tristan Cherry could do? He's got a 5-round average of 150 regardless. So I think that's probably about the it would be disappointing if you got anything less than that. So then the question is, do you put a VC on someone like Bontempelli, who could have a really big game, and then Cherry is your backup? But that just can get tricky, because what if Bont scores 133 and you think, do I take that, or do I, you don't want to sort of be stuck in that situation? Or what I'm going to try and do is VC Cherry, and then what it means is you need to have a loophole player and a backup captain who play later in the round. But I think we do this week because of the bye. You can use any of your bye players as a loophole right through to the end, to the last game. And then we've got TDK on Sunday night. We've got Collingwood and Melbourne players, Max Gawn, Nick Dacos on the Monday, which I don't think we'll have to worry about. But if Cherry, for some reason, doesn't fire, I think I'd be happy putting the C on one of those guys. So that's what I'm looking at doing.
Yeah, I think you got to take Cherry as the vice captain and then find someone on the Sunday night game, whether it's De Koning or going into Monday's game in Gawn or Dacos or someone like that. I think there's nothing wrong with Bontempelli scoring 140 and taking that and just locking it away, because you never know what's going to happen to Cherry. He might cop a knee in the kidneys and be out in the first contest, and you score a 0. Or you might cop, someone might get concussed, or there's no guarantees of 140 score being toppled by a captain later in the round. So I think if you do take Bontempelli, anything over 140 is probably the line I'd take. Anything under, I'd be looking to go to Cherry. Usually I set the line at 125, but obviously Cherry has a much higher ceiling, but especially this week. So that's what I would do if you wanted to go Bont into Cherry. But I'd be preferring to go Cherry into someone playing later and just hope that he scores 160, 170, and then you can lock that in.
Just we'll wrap it up in a second, but on that subject of Cherry and his matchup this week, do you think Matt Flynn, his break even's I think 111, he's sitting in my flex at the moment. I was hoping to hang onto him through to the Eagles bye. He's got to last a couple more weeks. Can he do it, or I'm a bit terrified about what's going to happen to him on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm very. At the end of the day, if Cherry scores well and Flynn doesn't score well, then it's as long as they both score 350 points together, then I'm fine. But okay. No, I am worried for Flynn. I don't know how he's going to go against. Cherry's very good, but if he can get 60 or 70 and lose a bit of cash, then that's not the worst thing.
I think he'd only lose like 10 or 15K maybe.
Yeah, whether he makes it to his bye in a couple of weeks' time is another question.
Yeah, it's just the problem is I've got players now which wasn't part of the plan who really need to go. Like Marriage needs to go, Flynn just about needs to go. And we're starting to ask about Matt Roberts, and the guys that I want to bring in aren't quite ready yet. Like Butters, need his price to come down. Horn Francis, I like him when he comes back and hopefully loses a bit of money, but that's obviously a few weeks away. Potentially Mills, when he's on the bubble, that's a couple of weeks away. So yeah, the timing isn't quite working for me this year, unfortunately, but we'll figure out a way through it. I think I'll hang on to him and just, if you watch it through the fingers as the classic emoji, but we'll wrap things up there for, just to have to keep an eye out on all our platforms for the final Sunday teams at about 5 o'clock on Friday. And then, as you say, late on Sunday afternoon, I think I'll be live blogging those Sunday games. So as soon as I see the Monday teams, we'll chuck them in the blog. So we'll find out who's playing on Monday as well. But a big, long round of footy ahead. So enjoy, Matt.
Thank you. Can't wait.
Exactly. And for the sake of your bet, go Hawks tonight.
Go Hawks.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll catch you soon.